He's nicknamed Il Capitano, the captain, and in Rome this afternoon, Matteo Salvini's supporters were cheering him for deliberately steering Italy's government onto the rocks. And this is his victim, Giuseppe Conte, the Prime Minister, given little choice but to resign after Salvini said he was abandoning his coalition ship. In the Senate chamber, the former partners were obliged to remain side by side. Salvini, the far-right interior minister, the Brutus to Conte's Caesar. But Conte accused him of mutiny, driven by personal and party interests, he said, thrusting Italy into political uncertainty and financial instability, before admitting to the chamber that his government had collapsed.
I want to complete this institutional transition in the most linear and orderly way. After the end of this parliamentary debate, I will go to the President of the Republic to officially inform him that this government is interrupted and to offer him my resignation as Prime Minister.
At that, his political assassin retreated, smirking to the back benches, his deed apparently now done.
Rifarei tutto quello che ho fatto.
I would do it all again, Matteo Salvini said. But then Il Capitano went into reverse, offering to stay on board the coalition until Italy's budget was passed, in what sounded like an attempt to gloss over his betrayal.
La via maestra è quella delle elezioni.
The main road is the path to elections because nothing and no one is better than the Italian people to judge. But as we are here, we are not afraid to carry on and finish along the path paved by this government.
And this country's most nationalist interior minister in decades has left himself politically exposed. For although the leader of the far-right League campaigned along Italy's coastline for fresh elections, which he thinks he can win, the Five Star Movement could simply form a new coalition without him, meaning no elections and forcing Salvini to spend more time on the beach than he'd like. This afternoon, a group of migrants travelling from Africa tried to swim ashore themselves to the island of Lampedusa after Salvini defied the Prime Minister by refusing to let their rescue ship dock for 19 days. Italian coastguards picked them up and 2 of them were admitted to hospital. Their fate another symptom of Italy's political crisis, as well as of Europe's failure to agree how to respond. A Spanish warship finally setting sail tonight to accompany the rescue ship back to a Spanish port. Although in the latest twist, an Italian prosecutor has now contradicted Salvini and ordered the ship's seizure, along with the evacuation of 80 migrants on board. Back in the chamber, Matteo Salvini grabbed his rosary as Giuseppe Conte accused him of using a religious symbol for political gain and of failing to answer allegations that the minister's campaign was backed by the Russians. And so a country in crisis, its leading populist politician angry about immigration and angling for an early election. Where in Europe are we? Oh, Italy, of course.
Well, joining me now is Lorenzo Codogno, visiting professor at the LSE and formerly the chief economist and director general at the Italian Ministry of Economy and Finance. Thanks for coming on the programme, Mr. Codogno. As we just heard in Jonathan's report there, the world is not exactly a stranger to Italian government crises, but this one is different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty unusual, at least in the timing, because Italy has never had a political crisis during the summer. And actually the parliament was already in summer recess when it happened, so had to come back to Rome basically to do the parliamentary debate that we had today.
But the stakes are also high, aren't they, because of the nature of the Italian economy at the moment, you know, the economic problems in the Eurozone as a general. Tell us about that as an economist.
Well, the economy is effectively in stagnation, and debt to GDP is rising. So clearly it's a fragile situation. It's not necessarily a crisis, it's a bad piece of information, because clearly this government was not delivering, in my view. Some people think that there is, you know, any other solution would be better than the current one. And certainly after today's debate, there seems to be no way back for the current government. So the only alternative, in my view, is either a centre-left government supported by the PD and the five-star movement, or early elections. President Mattarella over the next few days will decide on that, and so there will be a very interesting time, certainly for Italy these days.
I mean, I remember the League of Matteo Salvini just a few years ago. They were polling at 5%. Now they're polling at about 38 to 40%. This is an extraordinary rise for that party. If there is another election, is Matteo Salvini going to win?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. There's been an exceptional performance by the League. Part of that is certainly due to his leader, Matteo Salvini, who's certainly very popular and is very able to use media. The opinion polls suggest that he is running at about 37–38% of the votes. According to the Italian electoral system, this would be enough, together with the other centre-right government, centre-right parties, to have an outright majority in both houses. Actually, there is also a possibility that the League might actually come close to have an outright majority on its own.
And the League is famously Eurosceptic, very critical of Brussels. The outgoing Prime Minister was very friendly with Brussels, as is the centre-left. I mean, we like to think in this country that we're the only country in Europe tearing itself apart over Europe. That's not the case, is it?
Well, the country is coming from more than 10 years, actually, I would say 20 years of very poor economic performance. But certainly, over the past 10 years, since the government debt crisis, the performance has been miserable. And certainly, there is a perception that something has to change. The League has been able to attract voters that are disenchanted and not happy with the current situation. And so Euroscepticism is on the rise. Having said that, I think that you have to kind of distinguish two different leagues. I think the grassroots of the party is more moderate. The leadership is certainly leaning to the right and certainly very much Eurosceptic.
And are people like Matteo Salvini and his supporters put off by our experience of wrangling over Brexit in this country, or do they think that that inspires them?
Well, I think there is clearly a risk, given that the people surrounding the leader Salvini, that at some point the debate about Italy's participation to the euro might resurface. At the moment, it seems to be put aside, but again, the risk is there if Matteo Salvini gains an outright majority in the next elections.
Right.